Cusack is joining us, the Hill's editor-in-chief. Bob, I mean, this is the same briefing room we were told might return to the pool it used to be. And I'm not talking a pool of reporters, I'm actually talking a physical pool of water. But now that is not apparently in the cards. So they've crammed the 49 seats plus for this question and answer. How do you think it's going to go?
Well, I think it depends on what Spicer does. I think that Spicer has to move on from the crowd size controversy that really set him back, I think, and it got him off to a rocky start. Just talk about policies. A lot, as you mentioned, executive orders, TPP, Obamacare repeal. I think Spicer, who is very smart and knows, he likes to mix it up with the press, but I think when they're going after BuzzFeed, fine, you're going to win that fight. But when you're fighting with all the press, and I think the press is going to be combative today, I think it would be smart for him to maybe have a joke at the beginning and move on and talk about policy.
We could second guess that statement about crowd sizes and all from Saturday, but he is going to be asked about it. How do you think he's going to answer it?
I think it would be wise for them to say, listen, we said what we said, and we're going to leave it at that and not talk about that, because that also got Kellyanne Conway in trouble with the alternate facts thing, and that's something that's, I think, going to stick for a while. I think he just has to say, listen, we're moving on from that point.
All right. I want to bring my colleague and friend Jamie Colby, the host of Strange Inheritance. It's back, and so is she. Jamie, the lawyer in you, how does the administration make the point that you're going to open up legal trade deals that were supposedly settled, although TPP less so than NAFTA?
It hadn't been approved.
So that we start from scratch.
I think everything's going to start from scratch. Having just come back from D.C. like you did, I'm exhausted from having to cover the inauguration. I'm not sure how they're getting all this done. But really, I think it's just sending a message initially that all of these issues that were to be on the table are. We're not yet getting a sense, I don't have any inside information, I don't know if you do, about what will replace Obamacare yet.
Right.
But I certainly got the sense, being in Washington, that Congress, Republicans and some Democrats I talked to, are waiting to hear and waiting to act. They'd like to tell their constituents that they're getting things done as well.
No,
and
I think
Mr.
you're right
Trump's
about it.
clearly in charge.
Well, there's no doubt about that. And, you know, Bob, one of the other things I've noticed is I always define things by who you tick off. And I'm noticing that increasingly Donald Trump is ticking off fellow Republicans. John McCain was the first out the gate, if you think about it, to say on this trade thing, bad move, Mr. President. In the same hours, the Teamsters welcomed it. What do you make of that?
Yeah, I just think the way things used to happen in Washington, just throw it out the window. I mean, congressional Republicans, really, this is the first time in a decade plus, Neil, that the Republicans have the House, the Senate, and the White House. And I think Democrats are also, they're adjusting to Trump, and maybe he'll strike some deals with Democrats and go after Republicans. We saw that in the campaign trail. And the media, too. I mean, Trump thrives in fighting with the media. That's not going to change. I just think they have to pick their spots, because when you're fighting, you want to win the fight. You don't want to lose it. And I think, you know, a bit of a rocky start for the weekend. But they've got a lot to talk about as far as tax reform and health care. They should just go about that. Obamacare replace and repeal and replace. That's where they can make a difference. And that's where the Trump legacy is going to be remembered, what he got done, not crowd sizes.
Can I comment on the media part of this, though?
Sure.
I think that Mr. Trump has used the media for many different things, and in this particular case, he's dealing with some very esteemed people who have been in the business for a long time. I wish he would.
Steamed.
They are so steamed right now. I wish that he would take a slightly slower and maybe more quiet tone with it, because ultimately I feel like he will need us. Not necessarily Fox, but I'm just saying the media in general.
I don't think he feels that way. It's pretty clear.
He wants to control it, I think.
Or just say, look, this is how I got here. This is what I'm going to do to stay here. So, Bob, I'm wondering how that will help him or hurt him. I mean, those who sort of take on the press can sometimes rue the day. Others can, you know, happily, you know, show a record. Ronald Reagan comes to mind. He wasn't as much in your face, but he really didn't care what their editorial writers wrote or said. I mean, he just went about doing it. And that was then. Is that the approach now?
I mean, Trump, you've seen in interviews behind the scenes, even last week inauguration with congressional Democrats and Republicans at that pen signing ceremony. He can schmooze, and I think it would be wise for him, for the media people that he thinks are fair, and obviously that's less than 50%, to work with him, because I do think that headlines tie into approval ratings, and his are low at the moment. So I think he shouldn't fight with everybody, but certainly there's some in the media that he thinks are unfair. Then fight with them and call them out when he thinks they're being adversarial for adversarial's sake. But fighting the entire media, that's going to be tough.